Titanfall 2 will have a single player campaign because the original lacked one, but are single player campaigns needed in multiplayer focused shooters? Let me know what you think in the comments and I'll share my thoughts in the Your Game Show. Like I said, this has to do with Titanfall 2 not having a single player campaign, but this question also came to mind when reading the comments on the Battalion 1944 Facebook. If you're not familiar with Battalion 1944, it's a World War II shooter for PC and next-gen platforms that got funded on Kickstarter in 3 days. Psst. Want to know more about Battalion 1944? Click on the screen for the everything you need to know about this video. But anyway, it's a multiplayer title, but people are asking about a single player campaign. There are no multiplayer World War II shooters right now, but also no story in a World War II setting. A story that players can experience in a first-person shooter perspective. So are single player campaigns needed? Well, you could say so if you listen to the lead writer of Titanfall, Jez Stern. Quote, "One of the shortcomings of the first game was that we just did not have the mechanics to tell everyone, here's who you are, here's where you are, and who's around you." End quote. That's what a single player does. It gives you extra background information about the game, and that could be very handy for a new IP like Titanfall. But I don't know if a lack of a single player would help, for example, a new game like Evolve. Huh, what? Yeah, Evolve released last year, how crazy it might sound, as a multiplayer only title, but I think the many issues that the game had did not have to do with the lack of a single player component. I'm referring to the obsession with DLC and pre-order. I mean, the first thing I saw of the game was a pre-order now poster before I saw any gameplay footage. Also, there were a ton of badass alphas and delays, and the fact that you had to have a group of 4 persons to fully enjoy the game really destroyed it. Let's look at the sales of Star Wars Battlefront, another multiplayer only title. The sales are just fine. Heck, EA even shipped 13 million copies of the game since launch. So saying that Star Wars Battlefront needed a single player would be very wrong if we look at it from a financial standpoint. I'm not saying that a single player campaign in Star Wars Battlefront would not be cool, but just that it did not hurt the game. Also, Titanfall reportedly sold 10 million copies. And I think this is including crazy sales and maybe free giveaways, but still it's a big number and a sequel is coming, so that's a healthy sign.
Come on, move on! Prevent the walkers from reaching the space!
A counter argument would be Rainbow Six Siege. That game did not do so well and it did not have a single player, but is this really because of the lack of a single player campaign? I thought the campaign in Rainbow Six was always boring, so I did not miss it in Rainbow Six Siege, but I just think that it's hard to sell people on yet another competitive first-person shooter in this day and age. It also came out after a delay in December, just when all the big shooters have already launched. Was the single player going to save Rainbow Six Siege? Well, probably not. So I think it's safe to say that multiplayer focused first-person shooters don't need a single player campaign in order to succeed. Let's look at the reason why Titanfall did not have a single player campaign in the first place. Because only 5% finished it. Battlefront developers said the same thing. It takes the focus away from the studio and no one plays it. Maybe it's a great tool to use for marketing to get people excited by showing scripted explosions, but it's realistic that only a few players play the single player campaign of a multiplayer focused shooter. It's sad for the World War II fans that want the single player adventure, but overall single player first person shooter fans have games like Wolfenstein that are focused on single player and deliver a great story. We have games like Far Cry Primal coming, so there are still games for the single player shooter fans. Probably ones that because of their focus will have a better experience. So let's go back to the start. Titanfall 2 gets a single player campaign, but it's not needed at all. It had other problems, for example that it was first released on Xbox One, a platform that almost no one had at the time. It was also a new IP. Titanfall 2 will not have both problems. If Titanfall 2 would have launched in a not so crowded period, for example February or March, with a sick multiplayer, the co-op stuff that they have now, put it on PS4 as well as PC and Xbox One, I think it would have been fine. Do you agree? Let me know in the comments or hit me up on social media. This was Your Game Show. Subscribe to the channel if you liked it, like the video if you did, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.